It's very strange to make a video review for a title in which you see so many problems and which you really don't like, but which you somehow manage to enjoy. I know how does it sounds, but it doesn't matter. I have very few good things to say about the latest PlatinumGames Babylon's Fall. But one of them even sting my eyes. Playing this title, I actually enjoyed it, at least for a completely mechanical perspective. It just proves that mechanical pleasure doesn't really make the game, and it doesn't even make the gameplay necessary if that cap price is important to you. Gameplay is a king. It is the largest project and the latest project from the famous developer of the PlatinumGames and represents the joint efforts of aforementioned studio and published Square Enix. It's a game as a service model, hack and splash co-op RPG experience, say it in 10 times fast, but it's of course a simple formula, kill and slaughter but with friends, but an occasion. Okay, the formula is not simple. Nier Automata, Destiny and Mobile Legend had a child, Babylon's Fall. Well, I think I explained. The premise is relatively simple and almost as it was the transfer directly from the Some Laser No anime. You know a slave, one of many, and you managed to survive every danger transformation. When the Gideon coffin was forcibly imposed on you, now you have to go with the ziggurat to maybe cure your slow oldness for a disease called the Blue Sun Skies. Yes, nothing here sounds simple actually. Let's start from the beginning. Gideon Coffin is an interesting device that allows your avatar, the Sentinel, to carry 4 weapons at the same time. At first glance it makes your character look robust because all 4 weapons are always visible, but now they do not actually affect the agility of your avatar and look like holograms until you use one of them to destroy the oncoming enemy. What do holograms in a predominantly fantasy environment? This is not in question. They materialize in the hand of your sentinel and look very dangerous. Otherwise it hands to the backs in a similar way to weapons they normally do in the Nier Automata slot machine game, for example. The sentence 4 weapons at not only time sounds convenient, especially when you realize that those 4 slots don't limit you in any way and the type of weapon and they occupy. Sword, sledgehammer and 2 more sword sledgehammers, a rifle, it does not matter. The game always leaves the choice to you depending on how you choose it significantly affect the rotation. So choice is direct reflection of your unconscious on consequent style of a play and access to hack the slash the titles. Because fighting in this game is just that hack and slash, so far so good. However, all variation and deep of this system stops here. Because once you think into the set of weapons that suits you best, the complexity of the fight itself is absolutely non-existent. While you may be cutting with a sword and pounding with a sledgehammer, I'm also cutting a sword but shooting with a bow and arrow vice versa. The number of potential moves and variation of the team is terribly small, so the complexity in approaching different situations that is presented in the above mentioned game, Nier Automata is omitted here. The number of situations is also small. Whenever there are enemies who are fast or enemies who are sluggish but defend themselves with shields, in absolutely irrelevant once you defeat them for the first time. They always come in groups and always in waves in every instance of the fight, which are otherwise called the captors. I don't know why the fights with the levers are captors, maybe it's about the artistic freedom, which seems to be a lot of in this game, but more on that later. Of course, you are divided by 4 captors on the 4 fights for the end of each level in the early stages of the game. Your goal is to claim to the tower that the game is called Ziggurat, and your motivation is quite obvious. So, you were told by the empire you own since you are a slave in this game. I leave the motives on the empire to you to explore, although it's not clear that you will want to. Your heroes and heroines can be one of the 3 races, each of which is so negligibly different that choice seems completely cosmetic and at the same time aborts in this regard, because in all 3 cases it is the human race. So they were chosen to clip the ziggurat using the powers of Gideon Coffin, who would, if there is nothing the case, kill them at the first contact. What does ziggurat climbing actually look like? From the central hub you are used to be your played any co-op games in the past 10 years that you share with your players in a similar way to Destiny. You approach where you start individual missions, each representing one step ziggurat. There are individual levels on dungeons that you can cross alone with your friends, although it is mostly likely that if you are not alone. They will be complete strangers. The levels are very linear and unsprinting, painfully obvious and colored by periodic flights. The above-mentioned captures, which you will make either fall asleep or will simply forget that you have been mechanically pressing the same buttons in the same order for 10 minutes. Go through enough missions and one of the boss will be waiting for you. Equally monotonous, repetitive and uprising, I definitely don't recommend you to try kill the first yourself, because doing so means taking so negligibly low value from the HP bar with every swipe that you will need half an hour 50% of the boss. PlatinumGames at Square Enix in this case have an obvious counter-argument. It's only one word we have to hear: grind. Yes, the alternative will be to repeat the first 3 missions so many times that I stopped seeing the point in playing, so that I would have some chances of killing the boss in foreseeable future. At the same time, the real problem does not stem from the weight of the boss of the level, because they are really easy by PlatinumGames standards, and you can squeeze everything so without worries. Now, for the first time, weight is really only measured by the time. Fighting barefoot takes too long, well, endure or just replace the time with the time you will spend in grind. The dilemma is obvious, but there is no choice. Every swing, every block, every dodge or block is simply masterful. If more focus was placed or completely of the fights themselves, the game would be significantly more valuable. Unfortunately, in this case, we did not get the full splendor of Platinum. But the gameplay loop itself remains really mesmerizing and addictive. Create yourself in the hub, run into the built-in road, start the mission, complete the mission, create yourself in the hub, rinse, repeat. What Babylon fails is to turn the rotation into a flow state, but it just makes it kind of interesting which look you mock screen at all. There are Bones, a potentially phenomenal game. However, Babylon's fall always give the impression that other things were more important to him. The only problem is that apart from microtransactions, I can't figure it out what it will be. It's important to know that the games like they are evolving, such as nature games as service models. It's not clearly that necessary to have to fail, or not necessary that it will not suddenly become popular sometime later. However, considering the experience I had with the game, I don't see what can happen without Babylon's fail finding its place under the sun.